Party people, welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, where the gaming table is always set for two. I am your host as always, Jeff Stormer. This week we're coming to you with part 2 of our most recent Project Wingspan playtest session with Russell Collins. Before I dive in though, first I have a technical question I want to ask your opinion about. So with this episode, as I said last week, we split it into 2 parts, because the episode ran to a total of about 2 hours, and we figured it was better to put that into 2 one-hour episodes than one extra long 2-hour episode. What I'd like to know is, do you prefer it that way? Do you prefer when a game runs over, say, 90 minutes, if it be one extra long episode so you can hear it all at once without interruption, or do you prefer multiple smaller, easier to digest segments like we've done with this episode, or with the Star Wars episodes with Chris Ng a few months ago? How do you prefer it when a game runs long? Tweet me, Facebook me, email me, tell me what you think. I know I prefer the shorter, easier to digest episodes, which is why we've done it that way in the past. But if you prefer a longer episode, I'd like to hear that. And if you prefer the shorter episodes, if what we've been doing works for you, I'd like to hear that as well. I'll probably run some kind of Facebook or Twitter poll in the next week or so, just to figure out, just because it's something that we've been curious about. So let me know what you think. Speaking of Chris Ng, a very special thank you to Chris Ng and Silhouette Zero for their support on Patreon. Patreon dollars go towards hosting fees, equipment costs, new games for the show and convention appearances, and Patreon backers get access to cool bonus material like interviews, duet designers notes, behind-the-scenes material, and even full lost episodes. It's all pretty cool. You can find all of that at patreon.com/partyofonepodcast. Chris, thank you so much for your support. And with all that out of the way, let's throw it over to Announcer Me so that he can get started with the show. Take it, Announcer Me.
Thanks, Future Me. Previously on Party of One presents Project Wingspan. Klaus Winberg, aka the Rocket Man, was successful. The Behemoth, a building-sized weapons platform, had been disabled. Operation Backstab was a success. However, with Prior Paul Dumont's Citizen Council meetings looming, and Gene Wassler's war profiteering in danger of being exposed, it seems that there is a whole new set of battles waiting for Klaus on the home front. We join Game Master Russell Collins for the game, already in progress.
Yeah, and the flight back home is not really eventful at all. Once you're up in the air, it's pretty easy for you to just recognize where you are, because you know where you want to go, and the machine, of course, recognizes where you've been. I mean, it's been tracking you, and it knows where stuff is, so you're able to point yourself back towards Idyll with minimal fuss, and fly back, under the power of your system. That gets you there, It gets you there by the end of the day, actually. So the sun is setting as you fly into land at the scrapyard, where they've already got a crew waiting for you. I mean, they must have seen you coming in on their radar. Mm-hmm. There's already a crew there waiting for you. You step down, head into the little changing tent as the metal pieces of the machine shed themselves from you. They bring you, the outfits that you were wearing before they stuffed you in the old man Asturian factory worker clothes. And, Berza is just falling all over himself with the effectiveness of this. You get the idea pretty quickly that Operation Backstab was kind of his idea. Mm-hmm. That this kind of proves him to the generalship and so on, that he's, this is a great strategy, a truly effective strategy. Like, look what we can do with this power, You're not just a weapon of the battlefield. You're a stealth weapon. You can be so much more than just the head of the spear. You can be flexible and bring real variety to the ways that we can fight back and attack our enemies.
It can be anything they want.
Mm-hmm.
They want.
Mm-hmm.
It can be anything but one thing, and that's human.
He doesn't actually, he hears the first part, and that last bit, he sort of like half hears it, and half does it, like, so he sort of turns to you, smiles, and claps you on the back, and says, let's go into town and have a beer. So, back in town.
Back in town.
People are happy. There's celebrations going on. It's in the news already that there's been some major attack, and some, the city of Stausborg, which, nobody knew what it was before now, has taken direct hits from, a special secret saboteur force. And, people are excited about that. Everybody's happy and enjoying a little celebratory evening before turning in for the night. Of course, Père Paul is there, cheering everyone on, letting them know, yes, this is the power. This is the true strength of Moravia. See, what we can do, to turn back the enemy, to ensure that they are no longer a threat to us and our future generations. We're going to skip ahead a few days as things sort of settle back down. Things are, proceeding well with the war. There haven't been any major advances. There have been some minor advances into the Hansen frontiers, and the borders of Asturia are getting softer as Moravian forces fight back against them and begin to advance into their territory. It's not been a huge surge, which was one of the things that they had predicted. It was predicted that after Stausburg, was destroyed, there would be a huge surge, and we would be able to, to take the front of Asturia all the way in, to to the border cities. But so far, that hasn't happened. The war, progresses in kind of a slow grind now. Let's see. Marta is actually back in town on leave. Hannah went to meet her at the train station and insisted you come with her. Mm-hmm. And the moment that Marta got off the train, Hannah almost fainted on the spot because she saw that there's a big bandage around, half of Marta's face. She insists it's nothing that bad. She fell, bruised that side of her face. She's just covering it up. It'll heal up and everything will be fine. She can still see and all that sort of things. After a lot of comforting, Hannah, relaxes. And, all that sort of thing. Marta insists that by the time this heals up, she'll be ready to go back out there, she'll be able to return to duty. But the two of them are just immediately glom onto each other and try to catch up with things, sort of live up to old times.
Right.
Is there anything you want to be doing around town? Is there any thoughts you have? I mean, I've got a few things that are a few little troubles waiting in the wings, but I want to give you the chance to make use of some of your time.
I think I spend those few days after we get back just replaying things in my mind. Mm-hmm. I think about everything that happened, and I think about what he said, and I think about how we can be anything, you can be anything you want, and I start trying to replay things about could I have taken indirect fire? Could I have done that? And playing out and trying to, what I'd like to do is train my intellectual a few times, run that through.
Sure.
To basically try to figure out if it's possible for me to be more than the weapon that they want me to be. If there's ways to do this safely, if there's ways to do this to help people and not just kill people.
Sure.
All that stuff.
Okay, so you are training here we are. You're training a skill.
Yes.
So that is, you roll one die to mark one of those boxes.
All right.
That die is the amount of time you spend from the clock. Right now the war clock is at 24.
All right. Well, that's a success, but it is a 3.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, it's always a success. It's just a measure of how much time you spend in the training. So that's one intellectual training.
I'm going to do that one more time, just to bump that
that'll bump it up to 2.
All right, and that is a 1,
which is exactly what you want to do for this sort of thing. You want to roll low on those because that means it didn't take you as much time to spend the time. Yeah. So you have gone through sort of a lot of self-reflection and analysis of the experience and so on until you feel more comfortable that, you'll probably be able to handle this sort of thing better in future.
Yeah, I could have done better, and I'll do better next time.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. In that time that you spend working on that stuff, Paul's Citizens Council is still doing its thing. He keeps talking about the importance of rooting out spies, how there must be spies in our midst, and everyone needs to be on guard and looking out for that. And they need to be looking out for other things, like people hoarding food, the danger of that. And you've noticed a few times, Jean is, getting nervous when all this rhetoric starts flying around. I mean, he's still trying to do what he needs to do.
Right.
He still needs the money. He's still, the medical supplies are still scarce now and getting scarcer. I mean, more of that stuff has to go out to the front. You know, even a successful war is costly.
Right.
So as those words and rumors start to fly around, notice more and more nervousness from him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you want to get into situations with these characters,
right.
because they're Bond characters, there will always be situations that can earn you joy.
Yeah.
And you can try and deepen the bonds with them so that you could earn more joy from interacting with them. So I'm just mentioning that's...
I think those are my two plans, is to deepen my bond with Jean and then spend some time with Marta, or spend some time with Hannah and Marta to get
try and get more of the joy out of that.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So,
I think after we hear Paul give his speech, I want to find Jean and just ask him. I'm gonna ask him if I can meet his family.
Okay, sure.
Tell him if I'm putting myself on the line, I want to know that I'm doing it for the right reasons.
Well, he's taken aback at first, but then he sort of nods and says no, that makes sense. It really is for the best to do that. Then, let's go for coffee. I'll have you around the house for coffee in the afternoon, and you can meet everyone.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Now, Jean's, let's see, his son is, I believe, still out at the front.
Yes, Brand was deployed, if I remember.
Yeah, Brand was deployed, so he's still out there doing stuff. So it's really just his daughter, Maria. So yes, he has you over to the house for coffee. It's a nice day, It's sunny, it's bright, and because of that, he's able to bring her into the sitting room and sort of prop her up on a couch by the window. Normally, because she has difficulty breathing when the weather is, when the weather is poorly, like when it's too damp or whatever, he explains she gets really bad coughs, and if the pollen is thick in the air, that's another thing that gives her trouble with her breathing. But it's clear today. There's a good strong breeze coming through the windows, and it's the flowers have already, the blooms have wilted now, and summer is picking up. So things are comfortable for her.
Good.
So he sits you down to have coffee and talk about the subjects of the day.
Mm-hmm. I think I just want to mostly listen. I want to really get to know his story, the story of his family, and share the parts of my story that I can share. I can't share much, but
I
want to know about my life before the war and who I was before.
Exactly.
I was someone before, right? I had to be someone before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was a person before this.
I'm sure you were. Of course. That's where you got this whole, military, bug in your ear about,
it'd be nice to hear people talk about their lives for a while.
Well, things go on for a while there in just sort of pleasant small talk, and after a while, Maria starts to get tired and starts to drift off. Once she does, Jean pushes, a duvet over her and just sort of sits back down. He like a more somber tone sort of settles over him. It's been hard for me to take care of her alone. Her mother passed away 3 years ago now. Yes, 3 years. Days kind of run together now with all that's been going on. But, it was easier when Brand was here, of course. Just having someone else around the house. I have to go out and I worry about leaving her alone. I can ask a neighbor to look in on her, but everyone has problems of their own, which is why I just need to make sure that I can provide for her. She needs the medicine, sometimes just to sleep. And if she's up all night because she's coughing, I'm up all night. And then what good am I to anyone the next day? It's... Well, I'm boring you now.
Not boring.
The troubles of my life.
Not boring at all. In fact, let me make you an offer. I don't have a whole lot going on these days. I work. I see Hannah and Marta when I can. Let me help out. Let me spend some time. I can stop by. In the afternoons.
I don't know exactly if that's right. knowing what you know about me, wouldn't people think that's more suspicious if I were to get caught? If anything were to go wrong, you've got Paul breathing down your neck every day. I've seen it. He's always, wandering by telling you, come to the council meeting. We need you there. We need symbols of patriotism marching these streets.
I mean, the simplest answer is we've had talked enough that, frankly speaking, if you get caught, I'm already in quite a bit of hot water if you get caught. So, frankly speaking, I don't see it getting any worse. And what's the worst they could do? At least to me.
The worst they could do. You've heard what they've been talking about.
I've heard every word of it, but
they
you leave that part to me, and I will take care of the rest.
They say that they found some spies in Idyll and they're handed them over to the government. Paul is calling for execution, that sort of thing, publicly. I think this is a situation where you kind of have to get him to open up more to you. So this is really more about being charismatic.
Yeah.
So you're charming and empathetic.
That's what I was thinking.
So, so we've got 2 dice there. Now, remember, because you deal with anger and despair in that way, the town itself is angrier.
Right.
It's up to 3
right.
in its anger. That's why Paul appeared on the scene.
Right,
that was when I brought Paul into the... leave yours at 2, because yours is 2, mine is 3.
Got it.
That's why Paul is on the scene.
Yeah, right.
Because, people started getting angry, so it was time for an old man to step up and say, patriotism, spies, hit people with sticks, that kind of thing.
Sure.
That means that just the difficulties of all these situations in town are a 1 higher than they would normally be.
Sure.
So this challenge of dealing with him would normally be a 6. Now it's up to a 7 because of that. Just so you know why the challenge is 7 for this situation.
Okay.
So you're trying to be charming, so that gives you 2 dice to roll there. There's no buff on the situation. Okay. He's not resisting you with anything special.
6, 8.
8. All right. 8. That's good. That gets you what you need. You have won the scene. So, 6. Let me take that 6 out of here before I forget. So you have deepened your bond with Jean. After thinking it over for a while, he agrees. Like, well, all right, I suppose it would be okay if you have a day off to drop by or something. Maybe just to, have coffee and see that she's up and about. Yeah, I guess that will be okay.
I think he says, that would be good to keep active, It gives me something to do. Gives me something to do in the off hours.
All right, then. Now, you've deepened your bond with Jean. Mm-hmm. You get 2 points of joy from that interaction because, things were successful and you're together. And since you're back in town and the anger and despair haven't ticked over to the next level of intensity, you can buy one of them down with that success. Do you want to... Right now, despair is sitting at the point where the next time you get hit in the battle, it's going to go up to 2.
I'm going to buy that down. I'm going to buy that down.
Anger's got a little more room to it. So I will... Well, no, you can keep the joy point. Just from the victory itself.
Oh, got it, yeah.
Yeah, just from that success itself. So I will make a change there. So you've got a little more wiggle room next time you get out there and get shot at.
Right. Good. Perfect. Good. So I think the next thing I'm going to do, I've got a little bit of time left, is go see Hannah and Marta, see how they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe see if we can get lunch.
Sure.
Spend some time together.
The 2 of them are always up to hang out with you. I mean, of course, Hannah is just sort of hanging on Marta while she has her home. Sure. Marta has taken off, most of the bandages. You can see there's still a pretty nasty bruise.
Right.
Under her eye, whatever, she must have gotten clocked in the face by something. But it doesn't look like, she wasn't shot or anything like that. She keeps insisting that she was, scrambling over a rock and tripped and smacked her face, how embarrassing it was to sort of face plant, while trying to get in, to keep up with her squad.
I think I know what I'd like to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think specifically what I'd like to do is, try a little bit harder than I would otherwise, but try to get back into the, get back into our sort of friendly rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Get that banter going. Maybe, try a little harder to banter with Marta in that way to say that, everything is alright,
Okay. Yeah.
Doing so almost to convey to Hannah, hey, it's fine. The war hasn't changed us.
Gotcha.
I need to convince Hannah of that.
Right. Okay.
Hannah's who I need to convince of that.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're sort of reaching Hannah through Marta, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
They're very tight knit. All right. Yeah. So you, after spending the day talking, chatting, just being friendly, and just basically forgetting about the war, despite the fact that Marta is still wearing a partial uniform to show that she is a service person. Mm-hmm. And they keep insisting that they want people wearing their uniforms to provide that assurance,
right?
And comfort to people that yes, they are there, they are here, they are with you, that sort of thing. So you make your way into town and sit down at a little cafe, for dinner. The dusk is starting to fall. Marta turns to her mother and says, Could you go inside and get me one of those little blueberry cakes? I would love to have one of those. And, Hannah looks at her and sort of tilts her head to one side. And he's like, like I used to always ask for when I was a kid. Could you just bring me one of those? And Hannah looks a little like, looks a little surprised that she's being asked to be a waitress. Right. So then she gives sort of a mock bow and says, I'll go and find your sweet for you, and goes into the shop. As soon as the two of you are alone, Marta, turns and this sort of this wave sort of passes over her. Like her shoulders slump a little bit, like she sort of relaxes as if she's sort of been like holding herself up. She relaxes for a little bit, and and turns to you. Look, it's been so good knowing that you're here looking after my mom for me.
It's been good for me too.
Yeah, she does mention you in letters,
That's good. That makes me happy. It's good to know that. Know that it is as important to me having her here as it is important to her having me here.
How long were you a soldier, before you retired and all that?
Oh, yeah, years and years. I don't know, 24 years?
So you were in the first, border conflicts? Did they send you south to the islands?
Oh, no, I was flying planes from city to city. I was far from the border conflicts.
Oh.
I tell you, there were points when I was young that I wanted to go to the borders. I wanted to go to the islands, more than anything. But they said there was a place for me, flying planes. And then I saw people coming back from the islands, and...
You never had to kill anyone?
Not in the border conflicts, no.
I haven't told my mom yet, but this, bruise here, she touches her cheek and then immediately pulls her hand away, it's almost as if she forgot, how bad it hurts. I couldn't do it. I was there, and the sergeant was shouting, and everyone was going crazy, and there was so much dust and smoke. And I had my rifle up at my shoulder, and we were just looking, for where they were coming from. And I saw this woman. She was in a Hansa uniform. She had a rifle a lot like mine. He was running around a corner between some buildings. I don't think she even knew we were there. She just seemed so startled, She just came up short, and I had her right in the crosshairs. And I didn't pull the trigger. They trained us over and over again, and I didn't do it.
Can I confide something in you? Be honest for a moment?
Sure.
I envy that. I know it doesn't seem it now. I know you're hearing every voice telling you that the right thing to do is pull that trigger.
You're a soldier, though.
I think the one thing that I learned during the border conflicts, and his face gets real distant for a moment. I think the one thing I really learned talking to people and seeing this war and border conflicts and the 24 years I spent, the one thing I learned is that they'll tell you 1,000 times to pull that trigger, but it takes a lot more to not do it than it does to pull it.
Well, she got away while I was just sort of standing there. I don't think anybody saw what happened, or probably would have been court-martialed.
Oh, yeah, they would have been furious.
The next thing that happened, though, was, a chunk of the roof fell in and hit me on the side of the head, so I don't know, maybe that's karma.
No, that's plausible deniability. I say look at it that way.
So, I guess the point of it all is, should I tell my mom? Should I just pretend like it's not a thing that really happened?
I don't think either option is the right option. I think you can't pretend it didn't happen. And he leans forward and, if ever it happens again, you know where to reach me. Mm. But as far as your mother is concerned, I think let her have her stories. I don't think that she needs more than that. I think that the less that she knows about what goes on, the better it is for her.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Well, thanks. I guess she's going to come back soon.
And I think he raises a glass of, I guess, wine or coffee, and it's like, cheers.
Thanks. Yeah. Well,
to seeing the other side.
Okay. Well, I guess then the thing is, suddenly a voice calls out near the side of the cafe, shouting, and people like this, they're trying to bring us down. They're trying to turn us against one another. And Marta looks up, shocked, and turns to see. There's a woman standing there in the cafe. There's a small crowd of people with her. You haven't seen her before. She's not from round here, and neither are half the people with her. But it seems that other people in the cafe are sort of standing up and engaging with her. One of the people is waving a banner that you see. You can sort of make it out as if wave it back and forth. The People's Movement for Peace. Mm-hmm. And this woman is shouting and railing against, primarily it seems against, the citizens' councils groups. The unity does not come from fear. Unity does not come from these self-described commissars lurking through, looking for spies and trying to turn us against one another. That is, despicable that people like that would do that. I intend to meet this Prayer Paul person and this, and his cronies at their council meeting tomorrow, and we're going to show them that they do not run this country, that earnest people run this country, that people who want the war ended, who want peace, those people, and not soldiers like this one. And she points again at Marta. Marta has, slammed her drink down on the table. And you can see her fists flexing.
I think I'm already in between the two of them.
Okay.
I think I am.
Thought I was going to let you get away with just, comforting Marta. No.
Wide smile, hand extended.
Mm-hmm.
I think I am. It is such a pleasure to meet you. I am Klaus Winberg. I am new around here. What your name is?
Emma Dubois, she says.
Emma Dubois, it is an absolute pleasure to meet you. I would love to talk more. I'd love to talk more with you about this, perhaps privately, perhaps later today, this evening.
See to it she's talking on the other side of her face. Marta is getting ready to leap in there. Marta is a scrapper. She was, she did that security guard thing. She's always been athletic. She's ready to just start throwing punches.
So I'm going to jump straight to the chase. I'm going to try to convince both sides to stand down, and I'm going to say, now, I don't know, surely, I think I'm going to try to convince her that I'm going to, I know what I'm going to do. Because I think I have the tools to win her, to turn her, to draw her ire down from the soldiers. I think I'm going to tell the story about, like, I hear what you're saying, and I gotta tell you, I gave a speech to some veterans, to one of these councils the other day that was not met favorably, but I talked, and I started going into the same sort of speech about community and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm talking about, like, the lessons that we learned in the military are community, and I think the lessons that I learned in the military, granted I was a soldier during peacetime, but the things I learned are right in line with the things that you're saying. And I kind of, I sort of am, like, trying to talk, and I keep looking back at Marta to be like, I got this. Let me...
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think you need to make the convince roll. One of the things, though, is there is a buff that your opponent has on this situation. This is tricky, too, because we're looking at a difficulty of 8, because, things are tense in town. Marta is really angry at this person, and there's the opposition has a buff on the situation, which is, crowd, what's the word I'm looking for? Restless crowd, for all these people around who are obviously, even the ones who aren't directly attached to one side or the other are eager to start cheering for somebody to win a fight.
So I think I'm going to address that buff by, I'm going to conjure, I'm going to, as I'm telling the story about, like, well, my time in peacetime, I'm going to say, well, I was never the most gung-ho soldier, and I'm going to, like, sort of gesture towards knocking over a glass to see if, like, the people in the crowd remember that wine tasting that went on. I'd be like, yeah, I've never been the most graceful of person, and kind of, like, looking at the crowd as if to get them to laugh and sort of lighten that pressure a little bit.
You're trying to empathize with them in that case. But no, you're still trying to convince, you're trying to empathize with the crowd.
Yeah, all right. Take care of this buff.
All right, that'll remove the buff, so you get to roll your full value. Cool. So roll those 2 charming dice.
That's 2 plus 3, so I want to get 5 or 2 4s.
Yes.
All right, that's not too shabby. No.
Oof. Okay. Good news is that only cost you 1.
Yeah.
So you still got plenty there. So you attempted to debuff.
Oh no, that's gonna. Oh no, the machine doesn't like that one bit.
No, your pain has just gone up one more, and yes, the machine ticks over. So you make that gesture towards the glass, again, just sort of like joshingly knock the glass over, and just at the last second, your thumb grazes the glass. It falls off the table, smashes to the ground right at the feet of this Dubois woman, and she jumps back and starts turning everybody. Did you see that? He threw a glass at me. This. What is this man? Who does this man think he is? He threw a glass at me. That's despicable. She leans in and starts raging at you even closer. Marta immediately runs up, grabs you by the shoulder, and throws herself in until she's like nose to nose. So they're screaming in each other's faces. You feel this sort of lurch in your gut, like just this sort of strange feeling, and it's almost audible. The sense of just like hit her, just do it, The machine doesn't like you being stressed and angry and embarrassed, so it's stop whatever is causing this is what the machine tries to tell you. Obviously, you don't.
I am noping. I am noping out of the situation,
but you know what the machine wants from you. You've still got some time on the clock. You can still try and leap in and try and stop the situation, or at least redirect it into something else. But
I think that's what I'm gonna do.
Okay.
Okay. I think I am going to.
Again, if you can get the 6 or the 5s, then you've got a better chance of it.
So I think I am going to slam my hand down and try to convince the crowd angrily of like, everybody stop it.
Okay.
Would that be convince or would that be empathize?
I think we've moved to convince from empathize. We're not trying to win people over. We're trying to like smack them into submission.
That is a 7.
7? I'll let you. Yeah. Well, actually, if you can spend 1 point of joy,
I'll spend a point of joy for that.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yep. The other one you couldn't really claw your way out of.
Yep.
All right. Good. Yeah. Because that's 8 there, so that'll give it to you. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So you've removed the crowd from the whole thing. The crowd is sort of taken aback. There's people are stepping away as these two women stand nose to nose and just start howling at each other like they're warming up for a fist fight.
Yeah.
In that way. And I mean that's the thing. Marta, yeah, she's trim, she's well trained and all that sort of thing. This Dubois woman, she's a couple inches shorter than Marta. Definitely looks not in as physical shape, but just so driven and so angry and so eager to prove. Like you almost feel like she's going to give up the first hit just for justification for all this, but then she's not she's not going to back out of this.
I'm definitely going to step up and say, listen, if we want to have this out, we should, this is not a fist, this is, and I'm going to look at her and I'm going to say, if you want to preach peace, this is not preaching peace. We can have this discussion. We can have it in private. We can have it in public. But we will not have this discussion over shouted words and shattered glass.
Okay. I like that.
6. 3, 6.
6? That's not enough to convince her to agree to that. But,
I don't think 7 would be either.
Yeah, 7's not going to do it either. It needs to be 8. Okay. Yeah, you say what you have to say. Marta is just shouting at her, and she's shouting at her. And then Hannah has come back out, and you hear the sound of a crashing plate as she drops the blueberry cake, and that shakes Marta out of it. She turns and looks at her, and looks at Hannah standing there over the broken plate. Dubois is still sort of shouting in her ear, about what a disgrace it is to know that that these soldiers are marching around just trying to make ordinary citizens afraid. What is this, a police state? Going on and on. Just they've kind of shut you out. But then when Marta sees Hannah staring there, she just turns and takes off. Just runs away from the situation. Dubois shouts a few things after her, and then she and her crowd sort of turn and drift away, talking amongst themselves about this whole thing. It's like they've almost forgotten that you're there. As Marta runs, Hannah turns to you and comes up. I was just inside for a minute. What happened? What did they do?
Oh, they are on. They're well-intentioned, but they pushed the wrong buttons. Marta has her buttons that can be pushed, and they got her temper flared up. I don't think that she wanted this to be a political discussion, and frankly speaking, I didn't either, but it happened, and I think I'm going to, just hand on the shoulder to try to, calm her down.
Yeah, you're able to. So, she's not as worked up as anyone else. She's really just more disappointed.
And just trying to keep her spirits up and convince her that it's okay, I guess.
Yeah. I know. It's just so confusing. Everybody's on edge, I guess. I'm going to go home. I'll wait for Marta there. I'm sure she'll be back after she's blown off some steam. It's not the first time she's felt that way. Well, thanks for a lovely day.
I wish that it didn't end the way it did, but...
What can you do?
Yeah.
It's just the way things are sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Hannah, parts ways with you. You settle up the bill there and walk home. So it's actually a couple of days before Dubois makes good on her pledge to corner Prayer Paul and yell at him. She seems to have waited for an opportunity when he would be talking with you, in fact. So it's after you've finished, a security shift. Marta's later today, Marta's on her way out, so Hana's a little on edge again, like saying goodbyes profusely. So you're rushing through town to get to their place after you finish your shift, security guarding, and then that's when you find that Prayer Paul had met, in the town square to give sort of one of his rousing speeches about loyalty and dignity and honor and all that sort of thing, to find that Dubois and her followers are there as well, facing off against him. Things are already heated by the time you're there. And once again, she starts calling out to people, including you, shouting about this Klaus, Winberg person, like, well, why, this example of people toadying up to the state and all that. The response she's getting is kind of mixed. There are plenty of people who are more on Paul's side, and they don't quite understand like what this person is doing, like protesting against, the important work that the Citizens Council are doing, which is kind of what Paul is firing back. Things you're saying sound like the words of spies, and we know what happens to spies, don't we? That's actually in the newspaper right now, how they just executed 2 spies in the capital city, we know what happens to spies. You see, you're trying to use that to make me afraid. You're trying to use that to control me. What about when the war's over? Then where will we be? Will your Citizens Council still be walking through the streets, dispensing justice as you see fit? You can't start using this now. It's a power grab, and we all know it.
I am taking the stage.
Okay, good. Yep.
Walking up. I'm going to stand directly in between them, and as loud as I can say, Paul, respectfully, shut up. Miss Dubois, respectfully, shut up. If we are having this discussion, we're having this discussion. But we're going to have it on our terms. Like, we're going to have it on civilized terms.
What are you talking about then? Some sort of...
I'm organizing a debate.
Oh. That sounds interesting to me, says Paul. He's had more of a background in legal dealings and all that sort of thing. But then, there's a good deal of fire in Dubois as well. Yes, I'd enjoy the chance to take you on publicly, to let the record show with the lies that you spew, trying to serve your own interests.
I say, what we're going to do, and I'm gonna make a convinced action, I think.
Sure.
To make this happen, is I'm gonna say, what we're going to do, one of our groups, the town is only large enough for one of these groups. It's only large enough for one of us. We either stand with peace or we stand with liberty or security or whatever.
Loyalty. Loyalty is the word that Paul shouts.
We stand with loyalty or we stand with peace. There's not room in the town for both. So we are going to have a vote. Town is we're going to have a debate and we're going to have a secret ballot vote. One of these groups is going to disband.
Oh. Okay.
So that is my convince action.
I think, the difficulty for this one's going to be lower because you're actually giving these people what they want. So I'm actually going to knock it down a couple steps because it makes sense to me. Let's make the difficulty for this one 5.
Right. 3, 6.
3, 4, 6. Good. 6. Okay. Give yourself a point of joy for that. Gene isn't there. Timon isn't there. Okay. Yeah.
I could argue for safety if we wanted to add or I guess that would be the point for winning.
Which one?
I could argue for safety. Safety over objective.
So yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
You're trying to diffuse a fight. You're trying to keep people from... I mean, once again, you're trying to stop another fist fight in the streets.
Yeah. That is my goal.
You're trying to stop... yes, I agree to those terms. I think that's sensible. Yes, it'll be great to be able to put a stop to the disasters that you're causing here. Well then. Let's draw up some terms, make some plans, and we'll make the arrangements for it.
Excellent. I will.
Good idea, Klaus.
I will moderate this discussion myself. I have vested interests in both sides.
I see. Okay. Well, that's obviously not going to happen right away.
Right.
That's going to take a little time as they set things up. We've got 3 ticks left on the clock.
I think I'm going to use I'm going to make a training roll just on charming, because I think I want to work on that.
Sure.
I think that's going to be probably where we end it, because I want to, if I'm going to be convincing folks of this debate.
Yeah, it's going to be more charming. Well, if it's charming, you need to roll 3 dice, though, because it's a talent that you're trying to raise, not just a skill.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry.
5, 4.
So we take the high die. There's the 5.
Yep.
Okay. So you trained up, put another tick underneath your charming there. Once we get one more, we'll hit 3, and then you'll roll over to having a 3 in charming. So, all right. So charming. Now, I think what ends up happening for the charming training is Paul wants sort of a practice partner.
Sure.
So he immediately grabs you, drags you into his little makeshift office. Remember, the mayor gave him a little wing of the town hall to set up his little civilians, his citizens council, and he begins like throwing questions back and forth with you. You're reading off note cards and all that sort of thing. So that basically, he's prepping you for debate just as much as he's prepping himself for debate. So, let's see, organizing debate. It's at the end of one of those long debate sessions where you've had to order in your lunch and your dinner. You've had the day off. You've been wanting to go and visit, Maria Wassler, but you haven't been able to extract yourself from this. Marta has already, returned. There's already been, letters back from the front. Hannah's, not doing as well once again, but Paul will not let you get away without him throwing more and more stuff at you. Until finally, he falls asleep at his desk. And you're able to quietly creep out the door, shut it quietly behind yourself, stuff the remaining note cards into a jacket pocket. And as you're trying to get out of the building and escape into the night to maybe sleep, maybe try to catch up with Hannah, anything like that, Berza, is sitting there on the hood of his Jeep waiting for you to come out of the building. Surprised that he was able to keep you going that late.
That makes 2 of us.
Man's got a lot more stamina you'd expect for someone his age. I mean, same age as you, but we all know you're a different animal.
Yeah, maybe we should look into him as well. Cause tell you something's not human about that man.
Yeah. So speaking of, there's a little job for you to do.
All right.
I'll fill you in on the details on the way.
Sounds good. He loads into the car.
And you drive off toward the scrapyard.
And that's game.
That is game.
Dang. Means everything's on fire.
I really enjoy the effect where there's such that sense of power on the battlefield, and I'm always like, oh my gosh, he's too strong. And then we get back to town, it's like, oh wait, when you're just a person, when you aren't wrapped in armor and carrying guns and all that sort of thing, you are really at the mercy of people just wanting to have arguments. I like the way that builds in that drama and that tension. So that tells me that the design is going well.
It is getting what you want out of it.
Yeah.
Russell, thank you so much for coming back on Party of One. This ruled. Where can people find your work online?
People can check out robotclaw.info for my blog and for information about Tears of a Machine, my game of mecha combat and crying teenagers. Similar rule set, so you've already got the basics down if you've been listening to this. There haven't been a lot of posts on there lately about Project Wingspan, but I'm going to be kicking the writing into high gear, so there'll be more news there in the coming weeks.
I cannot wait. Well, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, Future Me.
Thanks, Future Me, and thanks again to Russell for coming onto the show. That game is so much fun, I really cannot wait for it to be a thing. I'm so in love with Project Wingspan. Dang. You can keep up with Project Wingspan updates as well as updates on all of Russell's other work at robotclaw.info and follow Russell on Twitter at robotclaw. Then while you're on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod, like the show at facebook.com/partyofonepodcast. If you really enjoyed the show, consider giving us a nice iTunes review, social media shoutout, or word-of-mouth recommendation. All of those things help us find new listeners and help us grow to do bigger, better, and cooler things. You can also consider backing our Patreon at patreon.com/partyofonepodcast. If you'd like to hear more from me, check out All My Fantasy Children, the podcast in which Aaron Catano-Saez and I take your listener prompts and turn them into beautiful, thriving, vibrant role-playing game children. That can be found at allmyfantasychildren.libsyn.com. Party of One is produced by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Megaran featuring the D&D Sluggers. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates coming onto the show, or you just want to catch up, I haven't heard from you in a while. How are you? Are you good? Are you drinking enough water? Are you getting up and walking around? Good. I worry about you. Take care of yourself. You can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. Well, that's it for me. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day, and party on.